So this is grade 9, 2023, math paper 1, internal candidates. So I'll try to be as fast as possible. Where necessary, I'll be explaining. So here we have write 41.956 correct to 2 decimal places. So when you have 41.956 and then you want to round it off correct to 2 decimal places, what you do here is you write all these other numbers 41.9, and then before you write the last digit here, this one will be the last digit because we want it correct to 2 decimal places. Check the next digit. Is the digit so 5 is like the center. So when the digit this side is a 5 and above, then this number should increase by 1. If the digit here is less than 5, let's say the number is here. So I'm doing this to indicate that if it's a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1, then nothing will change this side. So if you have a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1, or a 0 here, then this will remain a 5. But as you can see, we have a 6 here, which is greater than 5. So that means this number will increase by 1. And we therefore have 41.96. So our answer here is A. So I know it may be tempting to pick C. Just be careful when you're picking your numbers. These things may be confusing. And then on question 2, we have which of the following shapes is used to represent the start of a program in a flowchart. So this one is used for decisions. It's used for decisions, and then this one is used for input or output, and then this one is used for processing. So the answer here is D, which is used to represent the start or the end of a program. And then John spent the following hours to study. So he spent 3 hours, an hour, 2 hours, 2 hours, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 2 over a period of 9 days. Find the mode. So one of my students taught me this. In case you're having challenges with these words, mode. So I was taught to just do this. So mode is the most frequent digit. In other words, the mode appears the most. So the moment you write it like this, it's much easier to remember. So when you check these numbers, we have a 3 appearing twice, 1, 2, and then we have a 1 appearing twice, and then we have a 2 appearing 1, 2, 3, 4 times. I think 2 is our answer. And then we also have a 0 appearing once. So our answer here is 2. Yeah, so 2 is our answer. And then on question 5, find the value of 6 squared plus 3 cubed. So we have 6 squared plus 3 cubed. So according to BODMAS, if you don't have brackets, then you can straight away proceed to orders. Orders or indices if you're using BIDMAS, or exponentials if you're using PEMDAS, it's all the same. It all depends on who taught you this topic. So when you have this, you can proceed to orders. So the orders here refer to powers or radicals or anything that has to do with square roots, cube roots, among other things. So we can find this one first. Remember, 6 squared means 6 multiplied by itself twice. It's not 6 times 2. Remember that? 3 cubed means 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3, and not 3 multiplied by the power. This is not correct. So 6 squared is 36. And then 3 cubed is 3 times 3, which is 9 times 3, which is 27. And then now you can add these two together. So let me just do it like this: 36, 27. So this plus this will be a 13. You carry 1. This plus this, we have a 5. Plus this, we have a 6. So our answer here is 63. So in case you make a mistake and say 6 squared is 12, and then 3 cubed is 9, and then you add these two and you find the 21. You can see that 21 is there. Another one can make a different mistake. So just make sure that you go through your work, especially after you are done with the paper. This is why we always have a lot of time in mathematics, to avoid such mistakes. And then on question 6, we have, which of the following is an irrational number? So an irrational number is a number which cannot be expressed in fraction form. In other words, the number doesn't make any sense in how can I put it? It has no patterns, it doesn't terminate, it has no repeating digits. It's just some random numbers, like one number after the other in without even having any pattern. So as you can see here, we have 1 over 8. This one has already been expressed as a fraction, so that means it's a rational number. This one is a fraction 2, then the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is simply a 2. I can write it as 2 over 1. So this one is a rational number. In other words, it makes sense. But the square root of 7, you can't even imagine it. If you were using your calculator will just give you an estimated value based on the size of the screen. If I had a bigger screen, I would get more digits. So as you can see, the square root of this is our answer here, because it's not a number that makes sense. You can't even think of it. I know it's something like 2 point something something something, but I can't guess because the number is irrational. In other words, maybe as a rule of thumb, we only have 2 types of rational numbers at this level. We have a pi and square root of non-square numbers. The square roots of 2, for example, square roots of 3, square roots of 5, square roots of 6, square roots of 7, square roots of 8, and so on, together with this. So the moment you see this or this, just know that you are dealing with an irrational number. Everything else at this stage is considered rational. And then, given that x and 43 degrees are complementary angles, find the value of x. So if 2 angles are complementary, it means they are adding up to 90 degrees. I hope I won't make another mistake here. Last time I said complementary refers to 90 degrees and wrote something else. Yeah. So if these 2 are complementary angles, it means their sum is 90 degrees. So for me to solve for x, I can just collect the like terms and solve this equation. So I can just say x here, and then I'll leave the 90 there, and then I can take the 43 to the other side so that it's negative, and then we can say x is therefore equal to this minus this. So we can just do it like this for the sake of our friends who may not understand. So 10 minus 3, that's a 7. Then 8 minus 4, that's a 4. So we have a 47, which is a C in this case. So our answer here is C. Then we have a D there. And then in the diagram, triangle ABC and triangle ADC are congruent. So to be congruent means these 2 triangles are exactly the same. So ABC is congruent to ADC. So this triangle is exactly the same as this. This is equal to this is equal to this, and this is equal to this. This is why we have double lines there and double lines there to indicate that these 2 are equal. Then we have a single line here and a single line here to indicate that these 2 are the same. So now, which of the following angles are equal? So before you even do that, you can just predict the angles which are equal. Of course, this one will be equal to this. This is a fact. And then since they've been twisted like this angle here, I'll use 2 arcs to represent it, will be exactly the same as that angle there. In other words, we have some kind of a Z there. And then this angle here will be exactly the same as that. So now let's check our multiple choices. So we have angle ADC. Angle ADC is equal to angle ACD. ACD, this is not correct. Then we have angle ACB. ACB equal to angle CAD. AD. Yes, this is correct. This is our answer. Let's just check the other two choices. Angle ADC, ADC, and angle ACB. No, this is not the same as this. And then angle ADC, and angle BAC. No, this is not correct. This angle is not the same as angle ADC, and angle BAC. Oh no, this is not the same as that. So our answer here is B. Then we can proceed to the last question, or the last two questions on multiple choice. The Venn diagram shows sets A and B. The shaded region represents, so before you even check the multiple choices, you can even figure it out. But of course, you have to check the multiple choice at the end just to check, just to find, or to verify your answer, or to pick your answer, so to say. So as you can see, everything has been shaded except for the intersection of A and B. So this tells you that you're dealing with A intersection B, and then outside. So you're dealing with elements outside A intersection B. So the word outside in mathematics is complement. So we are talking about A intersection B complement. Another alternative, although we don't usually use this version here, you can just say A complement union B complement. So that means elements outside A and then elements outside B, then put together. So it's the same thing here. So our answer here is C, because we are saying A intersection B complement. And then how many faces does the solid below have? So this is a solid figure. In other words, it has a face this side, a face this side, a face at the bottom, and then another face looking at you. So now, how many faces do we have? So to count the number of faces, you can just say 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one, I don't know how I can put it, is facing you. So we have 4 faces here, and our answer is A. Then we move on to section B. So section B, given that M is this matrix, state the order of matrix M. So the order of the matrix is defined as the number of rows, these are rows, by the number of columns without even multiplying the numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3 rows by, others use this, when you have 1 column, so it's 3 by 1 or 3 by 1. Please don't use both, just pick one. You can say 3 by 1 and leave it there. Another one can say 3 by 1, but not both. And then part B is saying find 2m. So 2m. 2m means you write your 2 and then you replace m by m. Remember, m is 4, 7 minus 2. So where there is m, just put 4, 7 minus 2. So now your job here is to expand. And by expanding, I mean multiply this 2 by each of the numbers inside. Nothing like rows, row by column here, nothing like adding corresponding digits. You're just multiplying these 2 by each of these numbers. So 2 times 4, that's an 8. 2 times 7, that's a 14. Then 2 times minus 2, that will be a 4. But of course, this is negative, so it will be a negative 4. Remember, when you are multiplying numbers, you are also multiplying their signs. This is positive, this is negative, and negative times positive is negative because these signs are different. Yeah, so you are done with question 11. We move on to question 12. We have an equation here. So solve the equation. 4x minus 8 is 1 plus x. So to solve this equation, your job is to collect the like terms. So now you have 2 possible ways of solving this. One can bring this one this side and take the 8 to the other side. Another one can take the 4x this side and bring the 1 to the other side. But the easiest way out here is to avoid negative numbers as much as possible. So I know that the moment I bring this x this side, I'll get a positive number because the bigger number, which is 4x, will be positive. And then I know that when I take the 8 to the other side, I'll get a positive number. So I'll show you both methods, and then he'll be the judge. So this minus this will be 3x, then this plus this will be a 9. And then to solve for x, you have to get rid of these 3 because you want your x to be all alone. And you do that by dividing both sides by 3, so that your x is 3, and you're done. An alternative method, like I said, is to take this 4x to the other side. So I'm only showing you this because some of you will be tempted to do this and then you end up messing up with the signs. So I'll give you both methods in case you decide to use this one here. So since the 8 has not been moved, it will remain a negative. And then this one here was positive on the right hand side. This is the right hand side, then this is the left hand side. So once I bring this one this side, it will be a negative 1. And then I have my equal sign, and then I have your x. Remember, the x has not been moved, so it remains positive. And then the moment you take this 4x to the other side, it will be negated. It will become a negative number. And then now, this minus this, remember when you have the same signs, you add. So this minus this will be negative 9. You are maintaining the sign here. Some of you will just get the sign from the bigger number. It's the same thing, because whether you maintain the sign, you get it from the bigger number, it's the same because they are both negatives anyway. And then this side, you have different signs, so that means you have to subtract. So this minus this, you have 3x. But of course, you're getting the sign from the bigger number, which is 4x. So this will be minus 3x. And then to solve for x, you have to get rid of the minus 3x by dividing both sides by minus 3. So this and this will go, then you remain with an x, and then minus 3 into minus 9, you have a 3. Or x is equal to 3. So you still get the same answer, except that if you take this path, you face a lot of challenges. And then question 13, we have factorization. So the question is factorize 3x squared minus 6y completely. So to factorize these numbers, you check the common factor of the two terms. So the common factor of, let's start with the numbers. The common factor of 3 and 6 is a 3. So you write a 3. And then the common factor of x squared and x is x, because x can go into x squared and x can go into x. We don't have any common factor for y. So that means we can close the brackets. And then once you take this one outside the brackets, in other words, 3 into 3 is 1, but we don't normally write a 1 unless it's the only number we have, or the only term we have. And then x into x squared, this is an x. In short, after you take the one of the two x's outside the brackets, you remain with 1x, which is just like x to the power 1. And then 3 into 6, you have a 2. And then this x has been taken outside the brackets, so that means you are remaining with a y here. Because, okay, and then question 14. So we have 3 girls here. So 3 girls shared 2,700 in the ratio of 1 to 3 to 5. How much was the largest share? So we have this ratio 1 to 3 to 5, and then we want to find the largest share, considering the fact that the amount of money shared here was 2,700. So to find the largest share, we can add all these three numbers. So this plus this plus this will give us the total number of shares, which is a 9. And then when you look at these shares, this is the first share, the second share, and the third share. And what these guys want you to find is the largest share. So as you can see, the largest share here is this. So you don't need to find this, and then pick the largest digit. Just go ahead and find this. or the share for this guy. So that would be 5 of 9 multiplied by 2700. So to solve this, you can say 9 into 9, that's a 1, and then 9 into 7, this will be a 3. So that means 9 can go into 2700 300 times. And then now you can multiply these two. 5 times 0, you have a 0. 5 times 0, you have another 0. 5 times 3, you have a 15. So a 1500 or maybe a 1500 kwacha. So this is the largest share and of course our answer. So we can proceed to question 15. A lady invested 2,400 at the rate of 3% per annum simple interest for 3 years. Calculate the interest the lady earned. So simple interest, or I, is given by PRT over 100, considering the fact that the rate is always a percentage. So our I will be P, which is the principal amount, and the principal amount here is 2,400 multiplied by R, which is the rate, and we've been told the rate is 3%, but you don't need to write the percentage because we have the 100 as the denominator, and then we have T, which is the time in years, which is 3 years. And then we can cancel this with that just to make the work easier. Of course, we know that 3 times 3 is a 9, so we can say 9 multiplied by 24. So this times this will be, we have a 36. Yes, that's a 36. You write the 6 and carry 3. Then this times this, we have an 18. 18 plus 3, we have a 21. So our answer here will be 216 kwacha as our simple interest. Calculate the interest there, lady, and yes, this is the interest. And then the Venn diagram shows sets A and B. List set A intersection B complement. So we want to list down the elements which are not in A intersection B. So what this one means is A intersection B, we are talking about this part. And then when we say complement, we mean all the elements outside A intersection B. So those elements are, we can have a B. Remember to write them in some order. So for letters, write them in alphabetical orders. For numbers, in ascending order. So B, and then we have a C, and then we have a D, and then we have an H. And we're done. And you have all the 2 marks. And then question 17, we have x minus 5 is less than minus 1. So to solve this, the best way is to take the minus 5 to the other side as opposed to taking the x to the other side. Remember what I said about that other equation? Because you solve these things exactly the same way you solve equations, except that when you divide by a negative sign, this will face the opposite direction. So you have x will remain alone, less than, you take the 5 to the other side. You can either start with a 5 or a minus 1. So when you take the 5 to the other side, you have a positive 5 and then minus 1. So that your x is less than this minus this, you have a 4, and you're done. And then next, a regular polygon has 9 sides. What is the size of each exterior angle? So this is easy. Remember, exterior angles add up to 360. So if you want to find each exterior angle for a regular polygon, you can just divide the 360 by 9. It's like saying 9 people are sharing 360 kwacha equally. How much does each get? So this is what you do. Exterior angle is equal to 360 over n. So we can say 360. Our n here is a 9 because this thing has 9 sides. So you have a 9. Then 9 into 36, that's a 4. 9 into 0, you have a 0. So this is 40 degrees, and you're done. And then simplify this. So we've been given an algebraic expression, 2x plus 3y minus 6x minus y. So to solve this, Your job is to put the like terms together without changing any signs, because you don't have an equal sign, you don't have a greater than, less than sign, you just have an algebraic expression. So I'll write my 2x first, and then after that I'll find a term like this, which is a minus 6x. Remember, this is negative, so I'll write it the way it is, and then I can go ahead and write my y. So this is 3y, and then I'll find a term like this, which is a y. And then now we have different signs here, so we subtract and get the sign from the bigger number. Remember, different signs, subtract and get the sign from the bigger number. So 2 minus 6 means from 6 you take away 2, which is 4x, and then you get the sign from the bigger number, which is a minus. And then we also have different signs here. So this minus this will be 2y, and then I'll get my sign from the bigger number, which is 3y. So this one will be minus 4x plus 2y, and we're done. And then on question 20, in the diagram, BE is parallel to CD, and then AB is 1 centimeter, and then BC is 3 centimeters, and then BE is 2 centimeters. Write the ratio BE to CD. So BE to CD, to write this ratio down, the best is to separate the two triangles first. So you have one triangle on top of the other. So I have separated the two triangles. We have a 1 here, and then this will not be a 3. Remember, 1 is the distance from A to B, and then 3 is the distance from B to C. So the distance from A to C will be the sum of this and this, which is a 4. Then this one is a 2. So now they want you to find, let me just label my drawing. So we have an A, C, and a D. So they want you to find the ratio of BE to CD. You basically have two methods here. So to find BC to CD, you can either find this distance or use the fact that all the ratios here are the same. So the ratio of AB to AC is exactly the same as the ratio of AE to AD, which is exactly the same as the ratio of BE to CD. So this is the method I'll use because it's the easiest. So I'll check the side which has numbers. So in this case, the side which has numbers is this and this. So I can just say A, B to AC. Now remember, for you to use this method, if they start with the small triangle here, and then they have a bigger one this side, you do the same thing. You can't swap them. So your ratio here will be 1 to 4, 1 to 4, and not 4 to 1, because the moment you write 4 to 1, you have changed the question. You are finding CD to BE. So the answer here is 1 to 4. Then we can proceed to question 21, where we have the Pythagoras theorem. So in the diagram, AC is a ladder 5 meters long leaning against a vertical wall, and then AB here is this one, AB. The ladder is 3 centimeters from the foot of the wall. So calculate the height of AB. So I want to find the height of AB. So to find this, we can use the Pythagoras theorem. So remember what the Pythagoras theorem says. Find the longest side, which is always opposite the right angle or the small square in the corner. So you can say AC squared, this one should be alone, is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. So AB squared plus BC squared. So our AC is known. We have the 5 there. You put your square. AB is unknown. You can either use AB or use an X. So I'll use AB. And then BC is 3 centimeters. So remember what we said about BODMAS. Before you do anything, you have to get rid of the squares since we don't have brackets here. So 5 squared means 5 times 5. So that means 5 squared is a 25. And then we have an AB squared plus 3 squared means 3 times 3, which is a 9. And then now to solve for AB, you can collect the like terms. So you can just bring this one to the other side. So 25 minus 9 is equal to AB squared. And then 25 minus 9 will be 16. So if you want, you can bring this one this side, but it's not a very good idea to make this one a negative because of the square there. So now at this point, you can introduce the square root to get rid of these two. So this square root, the square root of AB squared will simply be AB, because AB times AB is AB squared. Then the square root of 16 will be 4, because 4 multiplied by 4 is 16. So remember, this is distance in meters, so this one will be 4 meters, and you're done. And then we proceed to question 22. So on question 22, we have bills. So it says here, a water company charges 1 quarter 20 ngwe per liter of water used and a fixed charge of 70 kwacha. A family used 550 liters in a particular month. What was the cost of water used without the fixed charge? So we've been told the charge per liter is 1 kwacha 20 ngwe, and then you also have an additional fixed charge, but part A does not require you to add the fixed charge. And then a family used 550 liters in a particular month. So this is per liter. Remember, if you buy one pack of popcorns at 5 kwacha, then to get 2, you have to multiply this by 2. To get 3, you have to multiply 5 by 3. To get 13, you have to multiply this by 13. The same applies to this. 1 liter, 1 kwacha, 20 ngwe. 550 liters, you multiply this by that. So let's multiply these two numbers. I'll say 550 multiplied by 1.2. I'll ignore the last 0. Or I can just, anyway, let me not complicate anything. Let me put it back. 550. But if you are able to multiply without this 0, then you can do it. So to multiply decimal numbers, you can ignore the decimal point and then multiply the numbers first. So this times this, you have a 0, you have a 0, you have a 0, and then you put another 0 there, which is the placeholder. 2 times 0, you have a 0. 2 times 5, you have a 10, which is 0 carry 1. 2 times 5, you have another 10, plus this, you have an 11. Then 1 times 0, of course, you need 2 placeholders. 1 times 0, you have a 5. You have a 0. 1 times 5, you have a 5. 1 times 5, you have another 5. And then when you add these numbers, you have this 660. But remember that the numbers you are multiplying had 2 decimal places. So these. So that means even your final answer should have 2 decimal places. Sorry. Yeah, like this. So your answer here will be 660 kwacha without the fixed charge. And then part B is find the total cost for water used. So to find the total cost, you have to bear in mind that they did not just pay for the water used, they also paid this fixed charge, which is an amount of money they are required, provided they have water at their I don't know if this is a company, a water company charges per liter of water. Oh yeah, so that means we're talking about their house, yes. So provided they have water, they are required to pay this in addition to this. So now let's add these numbers. This plus this, we have a 13. Then this plus this, we have a 7. So this is a 730 kwacha. Question 23, find in the diagram QRS. QRS, this line here is a straight line. Angle QPR is 70 degrees, and angle PRS is 120 degrees. Find angle PQR. So we always have several methods of solving such kinds of problems, but for me, the easiest here is to take advantage of the fact that the sum of two opposite these two here, two interior angles is equal to the opposite exterior angle. So when I add this to this, let's call this one x, or maybe y. Y plus 70 is equal to 120. So you can take advantage of that and say y plus 70 is equal to 120. So now to solve for y, you just collect the like terms. So you can just say 120 minus 70. So that means you have 120 minus 70, this is a 0, and then 12 minus 7 is 5. So our answer here is a 50. So 50 is our answer. An alternative method is to find this angle first. So remember, this is 120. So to find this, you know that this is a straight line. So if this is a straight line, then this plus this should be 180. So to find this angle, I can say 180 minus 120, which is 60. So this angle here is 60. And then this one is 70. And then now I can use the fact that the sum of interior angles in a triangle is always 180 degrees. So I can say this plus this plus this, 60 plus 70 plus x is 180 degrees. Then I can solve for x. This plus this will give us 130 plus x is equal to 180. And then when I collect the like terms, so when I take this one to the other side, my x will be 50 degrees, and I'm done. So we always have several methods to solve such kinds of problems. And then next we have, given that x is equal to 2, and then y is equal to negative 3, find the value of 5xy plus 2x squared. So here we can say 5, x is 2, y is negative 3. Remember, when you're substituting, it's always important to use brackets. Plus 2, your x is a 2. Is it positive or negative? It's positive. Yeah, so now you can proceed with your board mass. So now I can either multiply these two first or these two first. The choice is mine. So I'll start with these two. 5 times 2, that's a 10. And then plus, of course, this one is squared. So if this is squared, then this means you are multiplying this by itself. So you can either say this or you can say 2 times 2. Yeah, so now I'll multiply these two. This times this will be negative 13. Remember, you multiply the signs. This is positive. Positive times negative, you have a negative. And then 10 times 3, you have a 13. And then 2 times 2, this is a 4. And then multiplied by 2. I'm trying to take it one step at a time. Of course, you can just multiply this by that, and your answer will still be correct. So this times this is an 8. And then when you have different signs, remember to subtract. So this plus this, you have a 22, but of course you get the sign from the bigger number, which is minus 30. So your answer will be minus 22. And you're done. And then question 25. On question 25, we have a mapping. The diagram shows a mapping from set P to set Q. Find the value of x. So your job here is to figure out the pattern. Check, are they multiplying by a number? No, they are not. Because if they were multiplying by a number, you'd see a 0 being mapped onto a 0. Because 0 multiplied by any number is 0. So that means they are either adding or subtracting. Multiplication and division are definitely not the operations being used here. So let's check. Which number will give us a minus 2 from a 0 when we either add or subtract? If this is not easy, check the next digit. If this is not easy, check the next digit. So you can see by now that they are subtracting a 2 from each of these numbers. So from 0, you subtract a 2, you have a minus 2. From 1, you subtract a 2, you have a minus 1. From 2, you subtract a 2, you have a 0. Then from 3, you subtract a 2, you have what they are calling an x. Oops. Yeah, so from 3 you subtract a 2, you have a 1, which is the x here, the value of x, and you're done. So your job here is to subtract a 2 from each of these numbers to get the output. So when you subtract a 2 from 3, you have a 1. So 1 is our answer. Number bases, convert 11.25 to a number in base 2. So to convert this, you have to convert the two numbers separately. So you can start with the whole number part. So 11, you convert this the same way we are converting numbers in, I don't know if it was grade 5 or grade 1. So 2 into 11, this is a 5, remainder 1. Since you still have a number there, 2 into 5, that's a 2, remainder 1. 2 into 2, that's a 1, remainder 0. And then you can either bring this one down, or you can say 2 into 1, that's a 0, remainder 1. So we have our first digit. And then to get the second part, which is the decimal part, you can use this method. So this is where you are keeping your, let's start with these numbers, the whole numbers, and then here you have the decimal numbers. So you can say, since you're in base, you are converting to base 2, you multiply this 0.25 by 2. So 0.25 by 2, this is just the 0.5, but let's multiply the two numbers. This times this, that's a 0, carry 1. Then this times this, that's a 4 plus 1, we have a 5. So this is 0.5. So your answer here will be 0.5. And then you pick the whole number part, which is the 0, you write it there. And then you pick the decimal part, which is the 0.5, you write it there. But because we don't normally write our numbers like this, so you can put this instead. And then after that, you multiply this one again, the 0.5, you multiply it by 2, so this times that. This is just the 1, but let's multiply the two numbers anyway. That's a 0, carry 1, that's a 0 plus 1, so we have the 1.0. So you can write the whole number part, which is the 1, and then the decimal part this side. So you pick these numbers in this direction, but for these you go in the other direction. So your answer here will be 1011 point, you move backwards, 01 base 2, and you're done. And then evaluate. So we have this one here. To evaluate this, you have the cube root of 8 plus the square root of 9. So before you add your numbers, remember to deal with your orders. Remember what BODMAS tells us? Orders. If you don't have brackets, proceed to orders. So these radicals, or the square roots and the cube roots, belong to this part here, together with the powers. So the cube root of 8 is the number which, when multiplied by itself 3 times, will give you an 8. And that number is a 2, because 2 times 2 times 2, that's an 8. So you have a 2 plus the square root of 9 is the number which, when multiplied by itself, will give you a 9. So that number is a 3, because 3 times 3 is a 9. Then this plus this will be a 5, and you're done. And then on bearings, the bearing of village A from village B is 155, as shown in the diagram. Find the bearing of village B from village A. So we want to find the bearing of B from A. So B from A. We know that this is 155, and then this is where our A is. So since you are coming from A, I think my paper is dirty. Let me just use. This is where your A is, and then your north. So to find the bearing of B from A, remember you are coming from A going to B. This is what it basically means. So I'll do this. I'll go to A, and then I'll draw a north line which is parallel to this, and then after that I'll draw an arc starting from the north line, which is my imaginary north line, going in the clockwise direction all the way to my B. This is my B. So now my job is to find this angle. How do I find it? Well, we have a Z here. We have a Z angle. So that means if this is 155, this is also 155, this part here. And of course, this is a straight line. So that means this is 180. So for me to find the entire angle, I can add this to this. So to find my bearing of B from A, I can simply add this to 155. So this plus this, we have a 5. 8 plus 5, we have a 13, which is just the 3 carry 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1, we have a 3. So our answer here is 335 degrees. And then question 29. The bar chart shows the amount of rainfall received from Monday to Friday in a particular town. So this is the bar chart. What was the total amount of rainfall received from Monday to Friday? So from Monday to Friday. This is statistics. To find the total amount of rainfall received from Monday to Friday, you can just add these volumes or the amounts. They're not really volumes. Yeah, so we can just add these numbers. So on Monday, we had 4 millimeters of water. On Tuesday, we had 6. On Wednesday, we had 10. Please do not be tempted to think we had an 8 just because after 6 we have an 8. And then on Thursday, we had an 8. And then on Friday, we had another 4. So plus 4. So now we can add these numbers. So this plus this will be a 10. 10 plus 10, we have a 20. And then 20 plus 8, we have a 28. And then 28 plus 4, we have a 32. But of course, we have units there. So do not forget to put the millimeters. So this is our answer. And then finally, we have question 30. So the diagram shows a rectangular block of length 10 centimeters, breadth 6 centimeters, and height 5 centimeters. Given that the mass of the block is 180 grams, find its density. So remember, density is given by mass over volume. So to find the density of this block, you've been given the mass, which is 180 grams. For now, you can ignore the units, and then the volume has not been provided. But of course, you know that this is a cuboid. So to find its volume, V is given by L times B times H. So you can say its volume will be, let's call this one our length, and then this one our breadth, and then H will be 5. So our volume will be, I'll multiply these two first. So this times this will be a 30, times 10 we have a 300. So this will be 300. Of course, these are cubic centimeters. So we have cubic centimeters there. And then density will therefore be, I can cancel these two out. And because these numbers are too big for me, I can just reduce them by using a 6. But of course, we can easily divide by doing a bit of manipulations. So I'll divide by 6 just to make them smaller. So 6 into 18 will be a 3, and then 6 into 30 will be a 5. Now these are smaller. So 5 into 3, that's a 0. You put a decimal point, and then you put a 0 on the 3. And then 5 into 30, that's a 6. So remember, these are grams, these are cubic centimeters. So your answer will be, the units will be grams per cubic centimeters. This represents this. So you have this as your final answer. And we are done. So remember, once you understand one